So this is from the 03 750. This is from the 05. And these two are from the 03. And these two are from the 05. So this is the ones we replaced. You can see how worn those were. So I swapped those two onto these, and they're on right now. So these two are the new ones. They look a lot better. But yeah, you just pop this ring clip out. This is push forward. There's two ring clips, and you pull that one out and wedge it this way, and then you push this gear that way, and then you can get to this one, pull that one out, and then this one slides off and this slides off and stuff. So yeah, you gotta put that back in and go from there. So gears are back in. It's really cleaned out each of the surfaces really good. See, they look a lot better. And now I'm gonna replace the shift fork. So this is the one that's broken, and this is the new one. You can see that. Looks a little different. Should work. But it's actually really easy to get this out. So this screw right here goes in right there. You pop that screw out and the shaft just slides out. And you just slap this back on, put some oil on it. And it's good to go. Well, it's getting so close. I got the gears in and everything. So now it's just putting everything back in place. So this goes on top of here, but gotta make sure all these O-rings are in, and just follow the service manual. There's also these pins and stuff right here. And I would recommend getting this in neutral first. So this gear is pretty much in the middle. It's not attached to either or. This gear is slightly spaced out, kind of like parallel or smooth with that gear. And then this gear is also not into anything, so I can spin the shaft freely, because that's what you want when you're getting the gears back in. If you took it out in neutral, so the fork will go, or the shifting fork will go right here, and then right in those two. Next, I just got to clean up all this oil, get it really clean. I would recommend, put this on with it as is and get a feel for it. See how the forks line up and see how long it takes and everything, because as soon as you start putting the gasket maker, it's going to start drying and stuff, and you don't want to, leave it for 20 minutes and try and figure this out. So after that, I'm just going to clean up all the surface where the gasket maker will go, and it's pretty much just around here, I believe, because you don't need any in between here. So just around this area, and then get both sides really clean, get all the oil off, and make sure there's not any oil that's going to drip onto the gasket maker. You don't want that. And just make sure both surfaces are really clean. Get some little really fine grit sandpaper, clean it off with some brake cleaner and lint-free paper towels. And then after that, I'm just going to gently set it in, put the gasket maker in, kind of wipe it real thin. You don't want a thick coat, just real thin layer. Make sure your hands don't have any oil on it, and then just gently set it in and bolt it down how the service manual tells you to. Then we'll start getting the oil sucker thing up back in here. I forgot the name of it. It's this part. It's like the oil. I get blanking on the name. Anyway, but yeah, it's going well. It's going to take a while to do all this though, so it's just something you got to take your time on. Make sure to get both sides really clean. That took a very long time to do, because you have to line up the forks, and then you have to make sure. So on each shaft of the gears on each side, there's like a metal ring that goes in, and it has a hole in that metal ring, and that metal ring goes in a certain space or certain slot. In that hole, there's a pin that sticks up into that hole, so you have to make sure to line all those up and get those, because if they're not compressed and if they're not in, you won't be able to put the cover on. So you have to make sure all of those are in, and then make sure those ring slots that go like kind of like they go in here, but it's just a metal spacer sort of thing that lines them up. You have to make sure those are all in, and then you have to make sure everything lines up, and then you have to make sure no oil drips onto the gasket maker that you put around. And you don't want to use too much gasket maker, because if there's any leftover, it'll seep into the engine, and sometimes if it's enough, it'll fall off and then get sucked up into the oil, and it won't pump as good, So you just got to be really careful about all that stuff. I just got the cover on. What I like to do is I put a line of gasket maker around, make sure both surfaces are really clean, and then just gently lay the cover on and really loosely put in the bolts, just really loosely, and then let it dry for 10-15 minutes, and then screw them all the way down to the torque specs. Another thing is the 6 bolts that go in on the back of this thing, you want to tighten those fully first. So what I did is I got the top ones here just lightly snug to round. In the service manual it says to first tighten them to 4.3 foot-pounds, so just kind of lightly snug, and then the final is 8 foot-pounds, and the same with the M8 ones, which are on the back right here. So the final ones, you want to make sure to torque all these to spec. That's where you put the gasket maker and everything. Line up the shift forks, and then after, you want to make sure that the drive shaft turns smoothly. So right now, if I reach down here, it turns just fine, real smoothly. No grinding or anything, or it's not really hard to turn. It's just you can feel the gears turning inside. So yeah, that feels really good. Yeah, this is so tricky because if you make one little mistake, or if you get a little oil on the gasket maker, there's no you can't be positive that it's going to seal correctly. So it's really difficult to get this all perfect. So I'm not getting my hopes up. I have a feeling that we put all this together and there's going to be some slight leak, or who knows if it will even work. I spent a lot of time and effort on this, and I went slow, went really careful, and I followed the service manual. But even then, sometimes you just can't get things perfect or talk perfect. So yeah, that was huge. That took forever to line everything up and get it on. It's nerve-wracking because the gasket maker, you don't want to let dry for 30 minutes before you tighten it down. It's okay to have it lightly on there and then bolt it all down, but it needs to be lined up, and then you don't want any oil, and oil sometimes, what's left over from here kind of drips down, so you just got to be really careful. It's just kind of a nerve-wracking experience. Yeah, I would definitely recommend, before cleaning both sides and putting the gasket maker on, put on and make sure everything is fully flush and everything fully seats around the edge. Put on the top part. Make sure you can do that. Make sure everything is fully seated and flush, and then gently take it off, and then clean both surfaces. Put the gasket maker on, and then put it back on. That way you kind of know that it fits and know how to get it fitted. So yeah, I'm going to torque these all to spec, which is probably around 8 foot-pounds, if I had to guess. 7 foot-pounds. Close. So yeah, besides that, clutch cover is going back on. And I'll probably, make sure it spins. And then also another big thing is take off this cover right here and get a torque wrench and turn the engine over 4 or 5 times, fully, spin it maybe 20 times to make sure everything is turning, because you can save yourself a lot of, something bad going wrong. If you're turning this and it stops, well, if you put the electric motor on it, it could blow up your engine, so you can avoid blowing up your engine by first turning the cam chain and the cylinders to make sure everything is working right, which I'm confident it will. I really only mess with the transmission, and because I already spun that, I think it's gonna be fine. I have everything lined up, but you always want to do that to double check, because that can save you a lot of money and time and effort, and avoid a big mistake.
It won't blow up, it's just gonna sound like a boat. See, told you it was gonna sound like a boat.
Oh yeah, she sounds good though.
quick shifter.
No more slipping in 6th gear. She rips. Still gotta be patient, make sure there's no oil leaks. But so far so good. I probably overfilled the oil just a little bit. You can see it's like right at the top. It is leaning this way a bit. Probably more realistically around there. But when it's cold, it's like overfilled a bit. It's never good to run it like that, so I need to take a bit of oil out. But yeah, it shifts great. 6th gear does not slip anymore, like what was happening in the previous videos. So that's really good. And hopefully she'll do well at the track. She feels really smooth. So yeah, you can see the new gasket maker and stuff. And this bike feels really good.